Imagine spending 20 years building a life with someone you believed was your soulmate, sharing dreams, struggles, and milestones, only to discover it was all a lie. That was my reality on a night meant to celebrate love and commitment. It started as a beautiful evening on our 20th wedding anniversary, with friends and family gathered to toast the life my wife and I had created together. But one unexpected guest and a single shocking revelation turned my world upside down. Before I dive into what happened, let me set the stage. I'm a farmer. Nothing fancy, just a man trying to make an honest living off the land. The past few years had been tough, with rising costs and unpredictable weather making farming harder than ever. My wife Emma had always been my rock, or so I thought. Together we faced every storm, every bad harvest, and every struggle. At least that's what I believed. That night, as we celebrated 2 decades of marriage, something felt off. The laughter seemed forced, the smiles a little too perfect. And Emma, well, she was different. She looked stunning, but there was a nervous energy about her, like she was bracing herself for something. I chalked it up to the pressure of hosting such a big event. But then, someone unexpected walked into the room. Keanu Reeves. Yes, the Keanu Reeves. You might wonder what a Hollywood star was doing at a farmer's modest anniversary party. That's the same question that ran through my mind. His entrance turned every head, including mine, and for a moment, I thought it must be a mistake, a case of mistaken identity or an elaborate prank. But then Emma froze. Her face went pale as if she'd seen a ghost, and that's when the whispers began. Keanu wasn't just an A-list guest at our party. He had a connection to Emma. A connection I never could have imagined in my wildest dreams. As the night went on, Keanu raised his glass for a toast. What he said left me speechless, my heart racing with confusion and anger. The crowd fell silent, hanging on his every word. That toast unraveled years of secrets, lies, and betrayal. A side of my wife's life I never knew existed. The revelation was so unbelievable, so devastating, that I could hardly breathe. It was more than just a betrayal of our marriage. It was the undoing of everything I thought I knew about Emma, about our family, and about myself. What did Keanu say that shattered my life? And how did a struggling farmer like me end up in the middle of a scandal involving one of Hollywood's biggest stars? Stay with me, because what happened next is something you'll never see coming. As I stood there frozen in disbelief, Keanu Reeves, the Keanu Reeves, clinked his glass, commanding the attention of everyone in the room. My mind raced, trying to make sense of his presence. Why was a Hollywood star standing in our small farmhouse, amidst a group of people who barely knew his name beyond the movies? And why was Emma, my wife of 20 years, avoiding his gaze like it would set her on fire? To understand the weight of this moment, you need to know about the life we'd built. My name is John, and I've spent every waking hour working the farm that's been in my family for generations. It wasn't just a piece of land. It was our livelihood, our legacy, and the glue that held our family together. My wife Emma was my partner in every sense. She wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty, whether it was helping during harvest season or managing the accounts when times were tight. The farm was more than soil and crops. It was where we raised our 2 children, Sarah and Liam. It was where we taught them the value of hard work, the meaning of perseverance, and the importance of family. Every corner of the land held a memory. Liam's first steps in the barn, Sarah's laughter as she chased butterflies in the fields, and countless summer evenings where we all sat under the stars, dreaming of a brighter future. But the past few years hadn't been kind. Droughts, debt, and sleepless nights had taken their toll. The farm was struggling, and so was I. Emma always reassured me, saying we'd weather the storm together. Her words were my anchor, even when I felt like giving up. But now as Keanu stood before us, her words seemed hollow. Keanu's presence didn't just feel out of place, it felt like a threat. He carried himself with quiet confidence, his gaze scanning the room before it landed on Emma. There was something in his eyes, a mix of familiarity and longing, that sent a chill down my spine. He began to speak, his deep voice commanding attention. "I'm honored to be here tonight," he said, raising his glass. "Celebrating 20 years of marriage is no small feat. It's a testament to love, trust, and resilience. The room murmured in agreement, but I noticed Emma shift uncomfortably beside me. Keanu continued, his tone growing more personal. I didn't come here just to celebrate, though. I came here because tonight is about more than anniversaries. It's about truth. And sometimes, the truth has a way of revealing itself when you least expect it. His words hung in the air like a storm cloud about to break. My heart pounded as I glanced at Emma, hoping for an explanation, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. The guests exchanged confused looks, sensing the tension but unsure of its source. Keanu's next words sent a shiver through the room. Emma and I share a connection that goes back years. Tonight, it's time to reveal what that connection is. The room fell silent, and my stomach twisted into knots. What was he talking about? How did my wife, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone, share a connection with a man like Keanu Reeves? And then, as if to heighten the suspense, Keanu put his glass down and looked directly at me. John, he said, I think you deserve to know the truth. What was the truth? And why did it feel like my entire world was about to come crashing down? Keanu's words hit like a hammer, shattering the fragile sense of celebration that had filled the room moments ago. The air was heavy with anticipation, but all I could feel was confusion and dread. My wife stood rooted to the spot, her expression a mix of guilt and fear. I wanted to demand answers, but my voice failed me. John, Keanu continued, his tone calm but firm. I've carried this secret for years, and I didn't come here to hurt you. I came because you deserve to know the truth, and because you've earned my respect in ways you may not even realize. Respect? For what? I was a struggling farmer, barely keeping my family afloat. Respect felt like the last thing I deserved. Before he could continue, Sarah, our 18-year-old daughter, stepped forward. What's going on, Mom? She asked, her voice trembling. What is he talking about? Emma turned to her, eyes brimming with tears, but she still said nothing. I could see the pain in Sarah's face, the same confusion and fear I felt. Liam, our 16-year-old son, stood silently in the corner, his fists clenched. He wasn't the kind to show emotion, but I could tell he was struggling to keep his anger in check. Keanu's gaze softened as he looked at Sarah and Liam. You kids should know this isn't your fault, he said gently. None of this is. His words only deepened the mystery. How could this man, a Hollywood icon, know anything about our family or what we'd been through? And why was he here of all places on this night? As the silence stretched on, my mind wandered to the struggles that had defined our lives. The farm, once a thriving source of pride, had become a battleground. Droughts, rising debts, and a greedy banker who was eager to claim our land had left us on the brink of losing everything. Emma had always been my partner in fighting these battles, but now doubts crept in. Had she been fighting with me, or had she been keeping secrets all along? Keanu broke the silence, his voice steady. John, I know you've been struggling. I've seen it firsthand, and I want to help. But to do that, I need to come clean about something that happened years ago. The room erupted with murmurs. Help! How could he help? I thought. Keanu Reeves, with all his fame and fortune, couldn't possibly understand the life of a struggling farmer. Yet here he was, claiming he wanted to help, while hinting at a secret that could change everything. Why now? I asked, finally finding my voice. Why, after all these years, are you here? What could you possibly know about my life? Keanu hesitated, glancing at Emma before answering. Because, he said, I made a promise to someone who cared deeply about you and your family. His words sent a ripple through the room. A promise? To whom? My mother, who'd passed years ago? My late father, who'd worked this farm with his bare hands? Or someone else entirely? Before I could press him further, Keanu reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded letter. He held it out to me, his eyes filled with an emotion I couldn't place. This will explain everything, he said. I took the letter with trembling hands, but before I could open it, a loud knock at the door startled everyone. Standing in the doorway was Mr. Carter, the banker who'd been circling our farm like a vulture. His face was as cold as ever, but there was something in his eyes that made my stomach churn. I hope I'm not interrupting, Carter said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. I've got some urgent business to discuss with you, John. Now I was caught between two storms, one that could destroy my family from the inside, and another that threatened to take away the only life we'd ever known. The room felt like a pressure cooker, every second stretching into eternity. I held the letter Keanu had handed me, its edges crumpling under my tightening grip. My heart raced with a mix of fear and anger, torn between wanting answers and dreading what they might reveal. Mr. Carter, the banker, stood smugly at the doorway, his sharp suit a stark contrast to our modest home. He adjusted his tie and surveyed the room, his cold eyes locking on me. "I see you're having a gathering," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "But I'm afraid this can't wait. Your payment is overdue, John, and the bank can't extend the deadline any further." The air grew even heavier. Emma's face turned ashen, and Sarah clung to Liam's arm, her voice trembling. "Dad, is this true? Are we really going to lose the farm?" I couldn't answer her. The truth was, we were out of options. The farm had been bleeding money for years, and every loan extension Carter granted came with harsher terms. Now he was here to deliver the final blow, on the very night I was already facing the unraveling of my marriage. Keanu stepped forward, his calm demeanor cutting through the tension. "Mr. Carter, perhaps you should sit down," he said, his voice steady but firm. "There's more going on here than you realize." Carter raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. "And who might you be?" "Keanu Reeves," he said, his tone casual but carrying the weight of someone used to commanding attention. The room collectively held its breath as the banker processed the unexpected reply. "Well, Mr. Reeves," Carter said with a smirk, "unless you're here to pay off John's debts, I don't see what business this is of yours." Keanu's eyes narrowed slightly. "Actually, that's exactly why I'm here." The room erupted in gas. My jaw dropped as I tried to comprehend what he was saying. "You? What?" I stammered. "I told you," Keanu said, turning back to me. "I made a promise. But before we go any further, you need to read that letter." My hands shook as I unfolded the paper. The words blurred together, my mind racing to make sense of them. But one sentence stood out, burning itself into my memory. "Keanu is the man who can save you, but only if you trust him." Before I could process what it meant, Carter slammed his briefcase onto the table, making everyone jump. "This is ridiculous," he snarled. "I don't care who you are, Mr. Reeves. The bank has rights, and I intend to enforce them." The room bristled with tension. Keanu remained calm, but there was steel in his voice when he replied, "You'll get your money, Carter, but you're not taking this farm. Not tonight." As the banker glared at him, I realized something profound. Whatever was happening, it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about my family, our home, and a stranger who had somehow become our only lifeline. But who had sent that letter? And why did Keanu care so much about saving us? The room was thick with tension, each second crawling by as if the universe itself was holding its breath. My eyes darted between the letter in my trembling hands, Keanu's resolute face, and Carter's growing impatience. I could feel my family's gaze boring into me, desperate for answers I didn't have. "What does it say, John?" Emma asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Her tone carried a mixture of fear and hope, but I couldn't meet her eyes. Keanu stepped closer, his calm presence somehow steadying my nerves. "John, this isn't just about the farm. This is about protecting everything you've worked for, all the sacrifices you've made. But you have to trust me. Trust." The word lingered in the air like a fragile promise. Trusting him meant believing in the impossible, surrendering control to a man I barely knew. But did I have a choice? Before I could respond, Carter slammed his briefcase shut with a loud snap, breaking the spell. "Enough of this nonsense," he snapped, his patience clearly wearing thin. "I have the authority to seize this property tonight if the debt isn't paid. Either you produce the money or my team will be here by sunrise." The finality in his words was like a punch to the gut. My knees buckled and I gripped the edge of the table for support. Sarah rushed to my side, her wide eyes shimmering with tears. "Dad, we can't lose our home. Please." The desperation in her voice cut through me like a knife. Liam, who had been eerily quiet, finally spoke up, his voice low and steady. "What if there's another way?" All eyes turned to him. His jaw was clenched, his fists balled at his sides. Mr. Reeves said he wants to help. Let's hear him out. What's the worst that can happen? We've already lost everything, haven't we? Keanu nodded, acknowledging Liam's bravery. He's right, Keanu said, his voice filled with quiet determination. But there's one thing I need to know before we move forward, John. Do you believe your family is worth fighting for, no matter the odds? The question hit me like a lightning bolt. Of course, I believe that. But how could I fight when I didn't even know what I was up against? Before I could answer, a loud crash echoed from outside. The sound of shattering glass pierced the air, followed by the roar of an engine. Carter's face darkened, and he rushed to the window. "What the hell is going on out there?" he barked. Keanu's expression hardened, his posture shifting as though bracing for a fight. "Stay here," he said, his voice low but commanding. As he moved toward the door, I felt a chilling sense of foreboding. Something was happening, something that could either save us or destroy everything we had left. And as Keanu opened the door, the glow of headlights illuminated a shadowy figure stepping onto the porch, holding an envelope. "Who are you?" Keanu demanded, his voice steady despite the tension. The figure stepped forward, revealing a face none of us recognized. "I'm here to deliver a message," they said, their voice calm yet ominous. "And it's one you're not going to like." Keanu's sharp gaze didn't waver as he stared down the shadowy figure on the porch. The stranger stepped closer, holding out the envelope as if it weighed a ton. The room behind Keanu was tense, every breath hitching in anticipation. "Who sent you?" Keanu asked, his voice calm but unyielding. The figure's lips curled into a thin smile. "Someone who thought the truth might set you free," they said cryptically, before turning on their heel and disappearing into the night. Keanu shut the door, the envelope now in his hands. He turned to us, his expression unreadable. "This changes things," he said quietly. "Open it," I urged, my voice shaking. The stakes couldn't possibly get higher. Whatever was inside had to be the key to everything. Keanu hesitated for a brief moment before tearing the envelope open. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a photograph. His eyes scanned the letter first, and for the first time that evening, I saw his confidence falter. "What does it say?" Emma asked, her voice trembling. Keanu handed the letter to me, his expression clouded. I read the words slowly, the room spinning around me as the truth sank in. The letter revealed that Carter, the banker, had been secretly sabotaging local farmers, including me. He'd manipulated loan agreements and forged documents, ensuring we would default and he could seize our land for a private development project. Attached was the photograph, a damning image of Carter shaking hands with a well-known real estate tycoon in front of a billboard for the proposed development. This can't be true," I whispered, looking up at Carter, whose face had gone pale. "You don't have proof," Carter stammered, but his voice betrayed him. Keanu stepped forward, his commanding presence filling the room. "Actually, we do," he said. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a flash drive. "I've been investigating your little scheme for months. This drive has everything: emails, contracts, and financial records. You're done, Carter." The room erupted into chaos. Carter lunged for the drive, but Keanu dodged him effortlessly. "I'd suggest you leave before things get worse for you," Keanu said, his voice like steel. As Carter stumbled out the door, humiliated and defeated, a wave of relief washed over me. But just as I thought it was over, Keanu turned to me with a serious expression. "There's one more thing, John," he said. "You need to know who sent that letter." My heart stopped as he handed me the photograph again, this time flipping it over. Written on the back was a name I hadn't seen in years. Daniel, my estranged brother. "What does this mean?" I asked, my voice barely audible. Keanu's gaze softened. "It means your family isn't just fighting for a farm. You're fighting to heal something much bigger." As the dust settled and Carter's car disappeared into the night, a strange silence filled the room. It was as if the weight of the past few hours had finally caught up to all of us. Keanu set the photograph down on the table, his expression softening. I stared at the name scrawled on the back. Daniel. My brother and I had parted ways years ago after a bitter fight over our father's will. The farm had always been at the center of our disagreements, a symbol of the responsibility I had embraced and he had walked away from. "Why would he help us?" I murmured, more to myself than anyone else. Keanu leaned against the table, his voice calm but filled with conviction. Sometimes people carry guilt longer than they should. Maybe this was his way of making things right. Emma placed a hand on my shoulder, her warmth grounding me. John, maybe it's time to let go of the past. If Daniel found a way to help, maybe it's not too late for the two of you to mend things. Her words hit me harder than I expected. She was right. This farm wasn't just a piece of land. It was the thread that tied my family together, even through years of silence and regret. The next morning, Keanu accompanied me to town to file the evidence against Carter. But the real challenge wasn't legal, it was personal. With Emma's encouragement, I picked up the phone and called Daniel. Hearing his voice after all these years felt like stepping into a time machine. "I'm sorry," I said, the words catching in my throat, "for everything." To my surprise, Daniel's response was immediate. "So am I. I should have been there, John. For you, for the farm, but I'm here now." That conversation marked the beginning of a new chapter, not just for the farm, but for our family. As the weeks passed, Keanu quietly disappeared from our lives, leaving behind only a handwritten note. Sometimes it's not about saving the farm, it's about saving what the farm stands for. Take care. Standing on the porch one evening, watching the sun set over the fields, I realized just how much had changed. The farm was safe, but more importantly, our family was whole again. Sometimes life's greatest challenges are the ones that bring us back to what truly matters.